Hello, I'm Don Grindeman. I'm the founder and director of the National Straight Pride Coalition, and you're here with us on our August 1st, 2020 meeting of our Straight Pride Coalition meeting in preparation for our upcoming event, March, Straight Pride March, the second annual in Modesto, upcoming on the last Saturday of this month, 4 weeks from today. And so we're with our band of brothers and sisters here, and we're going to give a discussion to those of you listening now of who we are. There's much more to say than the time I can condense this into, but who we are, why we're doing what we're doing. And essentially, there's so many things I could say. I'll just start with, we have two different religious philosophies, and excuse me for our fellows here, for this, some of this will be a repeat, but I'll tie it all in together with some new ideas relative to national events at the last. But again, to our basic philosophy, we are confronted with, for 10, 20, 40 years, we have what is called pride parades by the so-called LGBT community. Those have been expressed in cities throughout the nation. Across the country, there have been countless such parades. And so we held the very first straight pride parade in the history of our nation in Modesto last year on Saturday, August 24th, and we'll have our second on August 29th. Now, I mention that because these are completely opposite on their philosophy. When we look at the so-called LGBT parades, they have a particular foundational philosophy which they're functioning from. The base of all that they do is a religious belief, just as ours is too. The religious belief at the foundation of the so-called LGBT parades is what I call Satanism/humanism. That is in complete contrast to our Straight Pride Parade. As those of you who go to our National Straight Pride Coalition.org website can find, we'll have copies of our flyer there, which you're welcome to distribute to your friends and spread it far and wide, be Johnny and Jane Appleseed for the whole country. We have a completely different religious philosophy. We're based on Christianity, as it will say on this flyer. We're celebrating a celebration of life versus when you see a LGBT parade, you are seeing a celebration of death. Because we have Christianity, our standard bearer is Christ. The completely opposite religious philosophy is based on the standard bearer of Lucifer, or Lucifer's contemporary idea centuries ago, which carries to today, is a gentleman known as the Marquis de Sade. He is the standard and belief bearer for our opponents. So a straight pride parade is the complete opposite of a what I'll call sodomite parade, which is the proper word. And I'll backtrack just for a second to explain that. When you hear LGBT, what does that stand for? It stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. Now, as a quick discussion of that term, there is no such thing as gay. It does not exist. Gay is in this sense, which is used by the LGBT people, is a marketing term, an advertising term, but more importantly, a combination of those is for what's called social engineering. To train us as a populace, and I'll go back to the social engineering is an idea of psychology. It was based on the philosophy of Edward Bernays, who was the founder of advertising as we know it in the world. Edward Bernays, who was, I believe, a nephew of Sigmund Freud, he created advertising. He was the founder of it in this nation. And to give you an idea of what he started, and also social engineering, he was a major advertising executive in, say, 1910 to 20s, and he wrote several foundational books for the psychological understanding of that. And the classic example for Mr. Bernays is that he had a client, the tobacco companies. At that time, women were discouraged from smoking. And so his task was how to satisfy his tobacco company clients and increase their market value, increase their spread of their product. So how did he do that? He had, during an Independence Day march in New York, I believe, he had a number of ladies walking down the street smoking. And so what was the idea? It was the idea that they were independent enough and free enough to express themselves by smoking. And as the bottom line, after his campaign, smoking among women skyrocketed. So he succeeded, but that was just one example of using social engineering to, And also think of it that we're sitting around the table right now. In the scientific idea that I'm going to present to you, imagine this table had a little high wall, maybe a foot or two. We're all scientists. We're looking, and there's a bunch of mice in. So let's say the entrance is at that end and the exit is over here. We want to introduce mice into that, or I'll call them lab rats, and we want to watch the rats. How can we make them go from here to there, either the fastest way, the slowest way? And another word, if you ever hear of a gentleman, Ivan Pavlov, he was a Russian scientist who his most famous experiment was to ring a bell, and dogs would associate the bell with food. Even if there was no food there, they would start to salivate at the sound of the bell. Wouldn't even need to see the food. So the idea is that these lab rats, or people, as it has been evolved into with advertising now, can be trained like Pavlov's dogs to be obedient to their scientist masters, who can say, well, we can get the rats to go this way if we do this ABC. And so what you're looking at with the sodomite parades, the LGBT parades, which say gay, as compared to the proper word, which is sodomite, it's to train the populace to make acceptable what is, in former times, in rational times, non-acceptable. I say rational because the motto of the National Straight Pride Coalition is normal, natural, healthy, sane. Those are very important words because we're being trained, we're being socially engineered to do the opposite. We're being trained to accept the abnormal, the unnatural, the insane, the unhealthy. And we're being trained so that as lab rats, salivating dogs, we're hearing Pavlov's bell, we're being trained day after day to accept these insanities as normal, as acceptable. And not only to accept them for ourselves, in ourselves, but to accept them being taught to our children that same way. This is fantastically important because one of the objectives of the sodomite movement, which I present to you, and I challenge our opponents to prove me otherwise than any of all this, I challenge you to an open debate on anything that I'm saying. We'll have an open debate, we'll have it out in the public. Whatever you want, I'm ready for it at any time. The Marquis de Sade, he is known for, in his writings, he would look at Christian moral ethics, especially in the family. Let's say as one example was incest, a father sexual relationship with a daughter. That is an evil thing in Christian thought, in Christian religious perspective. So de Sade, who had the opposite perspective of Satanism, humanism, looked at that prohibition against incest. It's called a taboo. So automatically he was saying that I don't believe in Christianity. If they say no, I say yes. And so he would set out to accomplish that objective and say, and show people, I overcame that taboo, you can too. So the idea is to break down the cultural foundations which Christianity has established, especially for protection of the family in this case. And that can extend to endless variations. But what we're dealing with today is if you go to the nationalstraightpridecoalition.org website, you will see the pictures of children there. And we say we are supporting all children of all colors around the world, all races. We're working to defend them against the attack of what we refer to as the LGBT war machine. And that war machine is to break them down, this is a spiritual battle again. Above and beyond the physical ramifications that we see, this is a spiritual battle. When you see a sodomite parade, you're seeing a spiritual expression of broken souls. When you see the Straight Pride Parade, when you come and join us and spread this across the country, we are presenting the antidote to the poison of the LGBT community. We're actually going to have an event in front of Planned Parenthood, but it is actually going to be a church service. It will look as a cultural event, but it will be a church service because we're presenting this opposite religious idea. And I bring this up because this is the enemy of our opponents. They despise the cross. It's a symbol for everything which they despise. Just as you look across the country, you'll see a rising occurrence, slowly rising occurrence of the Satanic Church, and they're putting out Baphomets. They're actually making these statues and taking them on a tour of cities. A Baphomet is a combination horned devil, goat, whatever, but it is their religious symbol in contrast to the cross. So this is a religious war. And so I can't emphasize that more enough. But one of the reasons, again, we'll be in front of Planned Parenthood is because Planned Parenthood is based, again, on a religious philosophy. That is why this so-called LGBT movement, they are like this. They are tied in with Planned Parenthood. That's why I want them to hear this now. Because they are tied, they are welded at the hip with Planned Parenthood because they have the same philosophy. They spit on God, they spit on Christianity, they spit on Christ. So they are totally opposing views, and that's why when Planned Parenthood was started, we've all been trained like lab rats through countless years now. If you have a word association, which Planned Parenthood has diligently worked, they will say, oh, we're a health service. We're here for women's rights. And so that is the cover story. The real story goes back to Charles Darwin, and I'll just summate it very quickly. Charles Darwin, his main book was not called The Origin of Species. The real name of his book was On the Origin of Species and the Preservation of Favored Races. So it was disguised, it was a religious belief disguised as science, that white people were white people at that time, the Caucasian liberal founders of the backers of Charles Darwin, who subsequently went on to back Planned Parenthood, and Margaret Sanger, its founder. Margaret Sanger, who declared that blacks were human weeds, in her own words, not mine. They were considered human weeds, and so Margaret Sanger was an expression of this, what's called race science eugenics idea that Darwin introduced, that there were superior genetics and inferior genetics. So the job of the superior genetics, including the founders of Margaret Sanger and Darwin's backers, was to protect the superior genetics from being destroyed by the inferiors, because the inferiors, by definition, according to the superiors, they didn't have the brains of the superiors. So what could inferiors, and what would they do? They would breed like rabbits, and they would overcome the world, and they would eat up all the food, and you would have a population collapse. That's called Malthusianism, which has been disproved. Why? Because Christianity has an opposite view. Christianity says that if this is a table in front of us which contains all of the food for humanity to help it prosper, Christianity believes that this is all created. We are created beings. We didn't rise from the slime. And so the Creator, God, will give us the insight to reproduce these tables for the good of all. So we're not limited to this food, but through God's creative speaking to us and our following His promptings of how to grow crops and fill in the blank, we overcome the Malthusianism death projections of a world collapse. We have prosperity around the nation. So this is part of that religious philosophy that we're fighting against, because Planned Parenthood, again, they were founded on inferior genetics, which by their definition included what we now know the term is called people of color, or non-whites, but at that time they included whites also, including the Irish. But it was their genetically inferior enemies that they were dedicated to destroy. The result is that you have a website called blackgenocide.org, which documents that Planned Parenthood is the greatest killer of black. This is very important right here, especially for our enemies, for you who believe and support Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, they've killed more than 20 million, think of that number, 20 million blacks. So they're the greatest killer of blacks in the history of our nation corporately, and they're the greatest in the world except for the religion of Islam, which in the slave trade in Africa, religion of Islam cut down far more than that number of blacks, just by it was extremely, incredibly violent. The attack of Islam upon the black citizens of Africa. Just millions upon millions killed, cut down by the sword. But for our country, we have the greatest killer of blacks is in the phone book, and it's supported by the government. It's Planned Parenthood. They have the same philosophy of blacks being human weeds. Now, recently, we're starting to make a dent. The forces of life. We have a celebration of life versus their culture of death. Recently, Planned Parenthood has dropped the name Margaret Sanger from their New York clinics. Now, why did they do that? They've had it for endless years, say 100 years. Why did they do that? They did it because they're starting to get the heat from publicity, because we're lifting up the rock and we're shining a light on all the rodents under the rock. And they start to shake, and so they say, oh, okay, well, we'll throw the name overboard, as if that will save them, because it doesn't save their philosophy. Just like our enemies who listen to this. You can make name changes all you want. You can call us racist, but it doesn't matter because you have the same religious philosophy which you will not and cannot drop. And that's why we're going to be right in front of Planned Parenthood. That's why we're telling you where we're going to be, because we know you can't do anything else. All you can do is call us racist. And so for the people listening, I want you to think of this contrast. I'm speaking of opposing Planned Parenthood, the greatest killer of blacks in the history of our country. We've recently heard, in the last few months, we've heard Mr. Floyd, who was killed in Minneapolis. Well, Planned Parenthood has killed 20 million, 10 million George Floyds and 10 million Georgette Floyds. And it's lynched them in the womb. They put them in, they killed them, and they're happy about it. That was part of the whole design. It's not by accident. But our opponents will totally support them. So, this is the contrast when we go to the 29th. We will march down the street under our Straight Pride banner, and we'll be opposing the greatest killers of blacks in the history of our country. Our opponents will be on the other side supporting them. The very people who call us racist, oh, you're racist, and they've already done their media interviews where they're starting to repeat the same parrot line as they did before. So we'll just have the contrast. That is what we want. We want the public to be able to see we're opposing these organized killers who have, now think of the power that these people have. They have hundreds of millions of dollars which they get from the government which supports them, literally hundreds of millions. And there have been undercover investigations who have gone behind the battle lines per se and recorded them talking and laughing about killing the babies and using their body parts, selling their body parts. And who gets attacked? The undercover investigators. The court system protects the people who do the mutilation of the babies. They go after the people who expose them. The so-called whistleblowers. Think of all the so-called whistleblowers against President Trump who have come out and said, well, he did fill in the blank, whatever they can close their eye. Oh, he did this, he did that. And then with our media, which is utterly corrupt, everybody toots the horn and says, oh, boy, this is a wonderful, brave, courageous person who's coming out with this. But now when you have pro-lifers who go undercover to expose literally tearing children to shreds, they're attacked and called whatever it is to put them down. They have multi-million-dollar lawsuits against them. So we're up against the power structure. The power structure protects Planned Parenthood. Why? Because they believe in the same religion. That's why, because they're anti-Christian and they're pro-satanic humanism. And so that's how they can get so much money. And the same religion is what motivates and propels and is the drive. It's the blood in the veins of our so-called LGBT opponents. They exist by the religion of Satanism, humanism, no matter what else they say. So this is a war, a religious war, religious expression to save our nation from, if they were to win, in their ideal view, if you see what are called story hours, which are a very advanced, sophisticated form of child molestation, because in the old days of the sodomite movement, they've advanced far beyond this. There was a group called NAMBLA, which is the North American Man-Boy Love Association. They were professional child molesters who had chapters across the country, and they produced their own magazine. Now we've fast forward 30, 40 years ahead. It's Drag Queen Story Hour, which is projected on TV. They've got their drag race shows to make degenerate, sick, broken males, make them normalized into our culture. Not only normalize what they do, but have our children especially to accept, oh, I can be a drag queen when I grow up. And they're also going into schools saying that Timmy or Tammy, whoever the child might be in front of them, Timmy, you know, I used to be a Timmy too, but then I changed to Tammy, and what we know is transgender, and I'm so much happier now, and I found my real self. And so that's why you're having children trained across the country. There's an epidemic, a hysteria of transgenderism, which is supported by this same establishment. School boards, politicians, everyone else under the sun. You have a power structure with, and this is a blank check power structure. They have endless money for endless lawyers for whatever they need to accomplish this, their objective, which is the destruction of Christian society. So that's why I bring this to our enemies, that Our meeting earlier we discussed why are we coming out and telling you where we're going to be. Partly because you can't do anything about it. You couldn't stop us last year, and you couldn't stop us this year. And not only that, we can talk about your motivations right in front of you, and you know that you're supporting Planned Parenthood, the greatest killers of blacks in the history of the country, and you can't say, you can't walk away and say, oh no, Planned Parenthood is bad. I see the light now. I understand. The guy's right. They are the killers. You can't do that. Because if you did that, you'd have to reject the very religious foundation of what makes you LGBT, so-called, in the first place. It's your religion. It's like rejecting your bones. You can't do it because it's a soul disease. You have a broken soul, and this is a soul war. So that's why we're coming, both for you at that spot, to tell you exactly where we're going to be, exactly what we're going to do. But we're going to carry this across the country, too. This will be the potential to stop the evil which you're presenting across the country, which brings us to the new developments, which we have some discussion among our friends here of who it will be. But I'm going to present to you that Kamala Harris will be, it will actually be President Harris who could be elected in November. It will be President Harris and Vice President, again, Biden, although the title will be reversed on the ballot, but it will be really President Harris. And what is President Harris? I'll go back again for a second. Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, she declared in her own words, blacks are human weeds. But what was part of her plan? This is a big plan, okay, with tons of money behind it. They also created, in her own words, what was called the Negro Project. And what is the Negro Project? That is where, let's say that if Pastor Bruce here, he was in the black community, he sees Planned Parenthood come in the community, and he says, hey, these guys are going to do a job on us. They really mean it to kill us. And so he starts to alert the black citizens in his community. So what was the Negro Project? It was to train people, influential people in the black community, ministers, and let's say that I was a black minister. But I'm part of the Negro Project. I see Pastor Bruce. He's starting to be uppity, per se. And so what do? I come up and say, oh, Pastor Bruce, you got it all wrong. They're really our friends. They're our buddies. Let me take you out to lunch. So what is my job as part of the Negro Project? Is to neutralize him. To stop him from getting all the other citizens uppity, per se, and saying, get the hell out of our community, Planned Parenthood. Not only our community here, but across the country. We're going to stop you. So it's been a fantastically successful campaign. Its greatest graduate, you know, is Barack Obama. Because he was the so-called first black president of our nation. He is like this with Planned Parenthood. He is a total apologist for their killing his own citizens. He's a backstabbing to a betrayer of his own citizens. And in the power structure, that is how you advance. If you're willing to take crumbs from the plantation master's table, a term I use for our real rulers in this country, you will advance, be it Barack Obama or Kamala Harris, as endless people in political government have found. All you have to do is sell out your community, and you've got it made. You've got power, prestige. Everybody will come up to you. If you try to challenge them, you're out. The media will brand you as a hater, fill in the blank, just like the media will brand us as haters. Although we're challenging the very power structure which has killed all these black children, among many other countless evils. But I'm presenting to you that we can make a change in our tiny event in Modesto, because one of the questions we're going to present is that Kamala Harris, and there's a term for Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, and it's a term within the black community, and Pastor Bruce can confirm it. It's called House Negroes, if you've heard of that. So in the historical use of the term House Negroes, that would be a black intercessor between the plantation owners and the slaves to cool down whatever, if they might get upset, to keep the waters calm for the slaves, so they would be happy being slaves, and they wouldn't get any ideas of like trying to get out of their situation. So that is what Kamala Harris is. That is what fill in the blank Barack Obama is. Karen Bass is. Barbara Lee is. And they've been rightly rewarded. These are people who have gone. Maxine Waters.
No. Oh,
there's a classic House Negro. They are willing to sell out their community And it doesn't matter if there's 1 million, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million. It doesn't matter to them. I mean, they could care less. They get power, prestige, and everyone coming, oh, Maxine, how great you are. Yes, I know I'm great. And if you remember Colin Kaepernick, how he could score a touchdown. Boy, you're the greatest. I'm going to kiss you. You're the greatest guys in sliced bread. All of this is to make all these people who sell out their community, they can say, oh, yeah, you're right. I am so great. And so as long as their ego gets stroked, as long as they get money, the power, prestige, how many people who die from that, how many people whose lives are destroyed are totally, completely irrelevant to them. They could care less. So that's part of what we're doing, is we're challenging this whole structure. We're going in front of Planned Parenthood in Modesto, but we're taking a message to the nation, especially to all the people who I call rodents, our enemies, who are watching us now. We're coming after you so that we can express to the whole nation, let's have a showdown. If you talk about white supremacy and white superiority, well, okay, that's exactly what we're against. Planned Parenthood was founded on white supremacy and white superiority, and so we're against that. We're saying, if you want to stop that, you stop Planned Parenthood. So let's have it out. We're going to have it out on the streets, and let's see what we can do. Let's see if the people believe us, or if they believe us in history, or if they believe their social engineering conditioning. So, my friends, we sang songs before we started today, and so I made this presentation. I'm just speaking now that when we go out to our event in Modesto on 4 weeks from today, we're going to be singing the same tune. We're going to be singing that we're there to stop white superiority, white supremacy. We're there to stop racism. Our side will present the defense of black children from being mutilated and Cuisinarted and torn to shreds. You guys who oppose us, oh, okay, that's okay. It's a free country. If people want to support genocide of blacks, you're welcome to it. Go ahead, knock yourself out. But we have a specific, we're going to represent the specific side. You represent the total opposite, and that will be the battlefield, the lineup between the two forces. So just to present to you that that's what we're representing. I encourage all real Christians to join us on the 29th. All real Christians who want to stop the racism, the evil of Planned Parenthood, who want to promote the glory of Christ and that we are created beings, who want to promote Christianity and give glory and honor to our Creator, join us. If you want to give glory and honor to Satan, knock yourself out. Join our opponents. Completely different, contrasting religions. So, are there any questions from my friends here regarding what I've said, or is it crystal clear, or any thoughts that you have, thoughts, comments, ideas? Yes? Oh, okay. So with that being said, I invite you all to join us, nationalstraightpridecoalition.org. Our phone number is 8448-NATURAL. Remember our website, Normal, Natural, Healthy, Sane. And so if you want to join Sanity, we urge you to promote sanity, normality, naturalness, all the good stuff. Go to our celebration of life, masculinity, femininity, everything which makes life the wonderful gift from our Creator that we have. So we have a culture of life versus a culture of death. Completely different contrast. If you go to the Sodomite Parade, if you follow their philosophy, you're leading to the death of countries, individuals and countries. Heterosexuality is what built society. It built civilization. And you'll find that our opponents are saying, well, we want to break down the cis-normative heterosexuality of society. They'll say that there's not two genders. There's 3, 5, 10, fill in the blank, whatever. I heard one time 52 and then I heard 73. They go on and on. There's only 2 genders. Male, female. That's what God created. There is no more. That's the end of discussion. We don't have a new science coming up. So we're teaching science, we're teaching rationality, we're teaching to think instead of being lab rats. And we're going to work to neutralize the poison which our enemies are spreading through the nation. So with that being said, thank you so much for your time, and God bless you all and all that you do. Thank you.
Way to go, Don.
All that and no drink of